Do you guys remember when Link Monsters first got announced in 2017? People hated them at first and actually saw them as a way to nerf the Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, and Pendulum mechanic. Essentially, you had the choice of either summoning one of those monsters in your extra monster zone and then calling it a day, or if you wanted multiple of those monsters on the field, you had to summon a Link monster to give yourself some arrows in the main monster zone and then start summoning from your extra deck. So yeah, basically at first Link monsters were a way to nerf those extra deck monsters, but things ended up changing drastically over the years. The thing is though, the Link mechanic was introduced at the worst possible timing because it coincided with the Zodiac era. That deck was still tier 0 back in the days alongside True Draco Zodiac, and it had absolutely no problem settling on only one extra deck monster in the extra monster zone. So in other words, nobody cared about Link monsters on release, and that was true for quite a while too. Because once Zodiac got banned to death, it got replaced by Trickstar, Pendulum, and True Draco, and those decks also did not care whatsoever about Link monsters. So in other words, the only way Konami could kind of force people to play Link monsters was by making them completely broken. And they eventually started printing Link monsters that the player base could no longer afford to ignore. Firewall Dragon, Summon Sorceress, Saryu Just Called Dread, the Guard Dragons, and the list goes on. Funny enough, practically all of those monsters had the pleasure of encountering the ban list because of how unfair they were. So these cards were so powerful that their impact on the game was very short-lived, although quite drastic. In 2019, however, we got the two Link monsters that I believed changed the Link mechanic forever. Or at least changed how people view the Link monsters, and those cards are IP Masquerade and Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess. I'll go straight to the point, these cards are super toxic, they should get banned. But before I explain my reasoning behind wanting to ban any of those cards, a friendly reminder to smash the like and subscribe button, it really motivates me a lot to keep existing. And also huge shoutouts to my sponsors Inspired TCG's Dueling Guard, they are back with their restock for Wave 6, so you really don't want to miss it out, so check them out. Again, both links will be in the description box below, and use the coupon code YASIN666 for 5% off, and with that being said, let's get right into it. Alright, so starting off with Appaloosa, why am I so resentful towards her? Anyone who knows me knows the answer already, and the reason for that is because I hate cards that hold way too much power. You know, one card gets, up to 4 negates, that's a little too much, and also cards that fix too many issues at once. You might think that summoning a 4-material Appaloosa is really difficult, so, 4 negates is something that you actually have to work for, but you would be wrong. Honestly, the Link mechanic is the simplest thing there is. When you really think about it, all you're really doing is contact fusing every single time by just sending, generic monsters to the graveyard to summon any monster from your extra deck. Nowadays, pretty much every single good Link monster gives you a lot of zones anyways. It's not like before where you had to summon, Lineful Linkus to give yourself 2 zones. Power creep is real. And the issue with Appaloosa is that no other Link monster does the same thing of being able to negate any monster effect, not once per turn, and from anywhere. And because of that, it just ends up being the ultimate Nibiru counter, which is extremely annoying. I've mentioned multiple times that I believe that Nibiru is the perfect and healthiest hand trap Yu-Gi-Oh! Has ever seen because, unlike Maxi, it only really punishes you for overextending and being careless. Maxi kind of just punishes you for breathing, which I think is a little unrealistic and, a little stupid. The issue with Nibiru is that when there is way too many counters to it, the card ends up being a joke because, you're always beating it while also making huge boards. I think it's fine if you counter Nibiru by playing it very safe and very conservative by only summoning 4 times or by going into a super safe line that just, is way less win more, but also it makes way less interruptions, but at the same time beating Nibiru. But it definitely isn't fine when the solution is way too simple and can be achieved by anyone. Not to mention that Appaloosa in tandem with other generic interruptions applies way too much pressure. For example, Harbinger and Appaloosa doesn't really look like all that much because it's only 2 monsters on the field, but it's really annoying. You got Appaloosa that can negate multiple times, and you can't really run over it because Harbinger redirects attacks, and Harbinger also negates a spell effect. But seriously, I just find it so freaking frustrating that you can turn just generic garbage bodies into Appaloosa negates. This game already has a problem with way too many negates being in it, and way too many going first combos that are degenerate, so why make it worse? Appaloosa is both good going first and second, because going second you can start, baiting interruptions with it, and you can start forcing out Nibiru, which is, another story for another day. But the worst thing about Appaloosa is that it undermines the existence of the other Link 4 monsters out there. Why should I bother looking at other options when the best one is right in front of me? Again, Appaloosa has been out since 2019 and remained absurd for 5 years straight, and it never sucked during that period. And do you think that is about to change over time? The answer is of course not. It's always going to be broken, and if anything, it might become even better over time. I think it's about time this card gets banned once and for all, or at least gets an errata to make it way less generic and less powerful. Alright, next up is IP Masquerade, and I might repeat myself with this one. The issue with IP isn't necessarily the card itself, but all the options that you can summon with it. And by all the options, I'm especially talking about SP Little Knight. Look, if you summon anything that isn't an interruption with IP, I seriously could not care less. I don't care if the monster summoned off of IP is indestructible by card effect, that's actually the fairest thing that you can do. But back to SP Little Knight, I want to say that is the reason why it is so broken. It's especially because IP goes into SP on the opponent's turn. Because when I first saw SP, my first reflex was, this card is completely unfair and it'll definitely get banned very soon, or it'll make IP get banned eventually. The issue is you don't really have to put in any thought or effort into just generating 2 interruptions, because you can turn like 2 bodies into IP and then a 3rd body into SP on the opponent's turn, and that's already, a banish proactively and a double Farfa-esque effect. And this is where I have a problem. Links are supposed to be toolboxy and crafty ways of dealing with certain situations. I see cards like Nightmare Cerberus and Nightmare Phoenix as complete masterpieces for Yu-Gi-Oh! Because they allow you to turn 2 monsters into a way to deal with 1 card, but you also have to discard a card, so it's actually really fair. None of them are interruptions, and again, you're not really generating insane advantage by summoning any of them. You're really just dealing with 1 single card. However, when you're going from IP into SP, you're doing way more than Nightmare Phoenix or Cerberus, and you're also not discarding a card, which makes 0 sense. The fact that you'd rather make SP a Link 2 over Unicorn on the opponent's turn really speaks volume on how broken this combo really is. Yeah, this combo in quotation, right? Wow, you're so skillful, you could actually turn like 3 monsters into a way to interrupt me twice. Nicely done. So yeah, at this point I want to say the culprit is either IP or SP, but I want to say it's probably IP that's the worst. The thing about SP is that if you summon it without, IP when you're going first, the card's pretty fair, and if you're going second with SP, you get to break boards, which I want to say that's actually a good thing for Yu-Gi-Oh! Going second is already difficult enough as it is, so more tools to deal with boards going second is completely welcome. Just not as a giant interruption, which is what I want to say IP is the real problem. Hell, I started noticing that I've been having way less fun ever since IP was introduced. Too easy to use, too convenient, too powerful, nah. And the awesome thing about banning IP and Appaloosa is that we no longer really have to ban anything about the Snake Eyes deck. I mean, think about it, what is the best thing that you can actually do in the Snake Eyes deck? Summon IP and Appaloosa, that's pretty much it. When you hand trap them to death, they still end on IP and with Flamberge and everything, and when you don't hand trap them to death, then they do IP with Flamberge and Appaloosa and Princess Engraved. That's pretty much the only difference, really. If we ban IP and Appaloosa, all they're really going to be doing would be like rank 1s and other, cute Link 4 options, but that's completely fine. I feel like a bunch of decks got hit unnecessarily just because they were abusing unfair extra deck monsters. But in reality, it can be argued that the correct hits were always the extra deck monsters, and I want to say that's why Konami did such a good job at banning Borreload Savage and Baron last format. It's just that it wasn't enough, and this time we gotta expand that and ban the real culprits for the, reason why Yu-Gi-Oh! Is going downhill, which I want to say are IP and Appaloosa. Anyways, that's all I had for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know your thoughts about both IP and Appo in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.